हाय दोस्तों, ब्रास ग्रुप के चैनल में आप सभी का स्वागत है। ब्रास ग्रुप आपके लिए लाया एक नया लेसन। आशा करता हूँ आप लोगों को पसंद आएगा। धन्यवाद।
Chat box, and if you, I have messaged you one legal maxim: delegatus non potest delegere. Delegatus non potest delegere. What does it mean? And to what concept it is related? It is related to the sub-agent aspect. So we were left with the last duty, of which I have given you an introduction in your last class, and that duty is duty not to delegate. Duty not to delegate. So the very foremost duty of agent is what? That if he has been hired for doing any act, then this is something, the rule of agency, that he should do it himself. And it is based upon one of the legal maxims, which is written there in your chat box: delegates non potest delegere. It is a well-known maxim of law of agency. And what does it mean? It is based upon one of the basic principles that a principal chooses a particular agent because he has trust and confidence. So I hope you remember that we have already learned this fact that agent and principal relationship is based upon fiduciary relationship. So agent, when you used to pick up someone or appoint someone as your agent, when you do have trust and confidence in his integrity and competence. So if someone has appointed you as an agent due to trust, due to confidence, or due to the belief on your integrity, in your integrity and competence, then according to law, you cannot, further delegate the work which has been delegated to you as by a principal. So this is not only just a legal maxim. This is upheld in one of the case, in number of the cases. So first of all, I will give you the one case law of England. Thereafter, I will give you one Indian case law on the same aspect, which is laying down that this is duty of agent not to delegate his act to someone else. Or let us just simplify it, that agent is here generally required, that he should not appoint any sub-agent to act on his behalf. Otherwise, the general principle given in your Indian Contract Act, in your section 40 is the word that any person, any party to contract anyone as his agent. So I'm writing you, giving you the case law. Please write down, first of all, the English case law. B. Mushche versus Holt. This is an English case upholding the same legal maxim. It is of 1878. 1878. So on same aspect that there is a duty not to delegate, there is another Indian case law. Please write down the citation. New Bharat Corporation versus MP Electricity Board. Electricity Board. New Bharat Corporation versus MP Electricity Board. This is case of 2006. It is upholding the same legal maxim and same principle, legal principle, that an agent is duty bound to not to appoint sub-agent, because a principal used to appoint someone because of belief in the competency of the agent. So he should not delegate his power or act to somebody else. Please write down one line for your New Bharat Corporation versus Electricity Board. It has been laid down. It has been laid down by MP High Court. And please write down here, it is a judgment of MP High Court. It was laid down by MP High Court that proof is necessary. Proof is necessary to show. Proof is necessary to show the existence of an agent. Proof is necessary to show the existence of an agent. Existence of an agent, then of sub-agent. Then of sub-agent. Proof is necessary to show the existence of an agent, then of sub-agent. So let us now learn the law relating to the sub-agency in your Indian Contract Act. So again, I want to clarify, the general principle is what? That an agent should not delegate his power to someone else or should not appoint a sub-agent. This is based upon legal maxim and on a number of case laws, but itself your Indian Contract Act provides certain exceptions to this general principles, and exceptions which we are going to start will start from your section 19 onwards. Section 19 on your Indian Contract Act onwards. So read the bare provision, that is section 190. When agent cannot delegate. So it is clear from the heading, when agent cannot delegate, it means otherwise agent, in absence of these conditions, agent as a general principle, agent can appoint sub-agent. So read, an agent cannot lawfully employ another to perform acts which has been expressly or impliedly undertaken to perform personally unless by ordinary customs of a trade, a sub-agent may, or from the nature of agency, a sub-agent must be employed. So please break this section into two parts. First phrase is here supporting the general principle of agency, means general rule which is applicable all over the world relating to agency. That is what? Read till comma. An agent cannot lawfully employ another to perform acts which has in act been he has undertaken in a contract of agency, he has undertaken expressly or personally done only by the agent. Okay, personally. So if somewhere in the last phrase, starting from unless which will always give you a proviso, unless by ordinary custom of trade, a sub-agent may, or from the nature of agency, a sub-agent must be employed. So if the custom allows otherwise relating to that particular business to appoint a sub-agent, it will be allowed. Or if the nature of agency is here requiring, making it must to appoint a sub-agent, then you will be able or entitled to have the sub-agent as well. So let us just discuss that how to determine that sub-agent can be appointed or not. For that, I will discuss with you the four possible situations. First, it will depend whether you can appoint a sub-agent or not. It will depend on nature of work. Right? Nature of work. Sometimes, let me give you an example. Sometimes the nature of work makes it necessary for you to appoint a sub-agent. For example, an agent appointed to sell an estate may retain the service of an auctioneer. Means, if suppose as a principal, I appointed you as my agent, and that is for purpose of selling one of my property. So it is for the basically agencies for the purpose of sale of a property. So in such situation, the agent may appoint an auctioneer so that there can be a good deal. So if he is going to avail the service of auctioneer and the one authorized to file, then it will be what? It will be allowed. So where you want to have one particular person, you want to have one particular expert to do your act as an agent, then in such situation, due to the nature of the act, you will be entitled to have a sub-agent. Similarly, a person authorized to you for filing a suit on his behalf. For filing a suit, definitely you will be in need of a lawyer. So there also you can have appointment of a sub-agent. So first of all, it will totally depend on the nature of work. Second, there can be trade custom, means the principal who has appointed you as an agent for one particular trade. So it will depend upon the trade custom. So a sub-agent may be appointed and work delegated to him if there is ordinary custom of the trade to that effect. If generally this kind of the practice used to be followed, that someone a principal used to appoint someone as an agent, and there is a practice of appointing the sub-agent as well, there also it will be allowed. Thereafter, the third is what, that where is requirement of some ministerial action. Ministerial action, for example, authority to sign. So in such situation also there can be appointment of sub-agent. Fourth, when you can appoint a sub-agent. So that is very general in nature. The fourth situation which I am going to explain you. First of all, we talked about that general rule is what, that agent cannot appoint, or I should not use the term cannot. The exact term is what, agent should not appoint a sub-agent for doing the act, right? For delegating his act. So this is general principle. So similarly, there is a general rule where the principle is okay for the appointment of sub-agent. So there, in such situation, the agent with the consent of the principal may appoint sub-agent. So what is required? That there is need to have, means there is consent of the principal for appointment of the sub-agent, then irrespective of the nature of the work, irrespective of the trade or custom, irrespective of any other requirement, even in absence of such requirement, an agent is always able to appoint a sub-agent with the consent of principal. So, yes,
Ma'am, the first was nature of work, and the fourth is with consent of the principal. What are the second and the third conditions?
Second is trade custom, where what kind of the trade has been given to you by the principal, assigned to you by the principal. That trade, this is a trade custom that generally the people used to hire an agent or a person to do the acts of the trade. So where it is itself the custom of a trade, people used to hire the third person to do the work or to perform certain duties. Similarly, you will be allowed to hire, right? So is second clear to you?
Yes, ma'am. And the third?
Third is ministerial action, where something is relating to the management or something which is requiring purely ministerial action in nature. Then we used to call, what is the meaning of ministerial action? Where someone is giving you authority to sign, right? Suppose someone has, just a minute, an agent, of course, let me explain you, an agent, of course, cannot delegate the act which he has expressly or undertaken to perform him personally. जहाँ पे उसका personal skill or learning है, as I gave you example in your last class, Lata Mangeshkar, teaching or anything else. But otherwise, if somewhere no personal, performance is required, only you have been appointed to do certain signature, etc. So that used to be called as ministerial act. I'm going to write down in your chat box what is the meaning of ministerial. Means you have been just appointed to sign, etc. Right? Rather than taking the decision. Means your personal performance is otherwise not required. So in such situation, subject to the contract between you and principal, you may appoint sub-agent. Means it is only for purpose of signature, etc. Purely nature of a ministerial act. So there you can appoint sub-agent, but definitely all of these three things will be subject to the contract between the principal and the agent. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Abhimanyu, it is clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, we have learned that when an agent can appoint sub-agent. So for that, you will mention your section 90. So section 190 is telling you when an agent can appoint sub-agent. Please keep an eye on the chat box. Manisha Yadav, ma'am, please repeat the fourth situation. Okay. Before moving further, Manisha, let me explain you that principal consent. Okay. I'm just telling you, I told you the general rule is what? That if any act has been assigned to any agent, then definitely it is because of the principal's trust, confidence in agent, in his integrity, in his competency. So on the very first hand, agent should not, right? Agent should not. This will be the rule to govern everywhere in the entire world. Right, but at same time, I keep telling you, contract law is of a unique nature, which gives power to the parties to the contract to lay down the terms and conditions as per their mutual consent. So, fourth is giving you a situation where principal gives consent to his agent. Means I hired you as my agent, I appointed you as my agent, and at same time I allowed you to appoint sub-agent. However, otherwise it was not the need of the nature of work. It was not according to trade of the custom. It is not for ministerial action. But I gave you power. I gave you consent in the contract that you can appoint the sub-agent. Then even in such situation, the agent can appoint sub-agent. Is it clear? Manisha? Okay. So after doing that, let us talk about, when we are talking about sub-agent, okay, let us understand who will be sub-agent. First of all, we talk about that a sub-agent can be appointed. Let us talk about now who can be sub-agent. Any one of you? Any one of you? Please try that as per you, who will be sub-agent? How you can define sub-agent? You may try for it. Anyone whom power is delegated, power. Yes.
I'm not sure, but I think that a sub-agent would be an agent to the agent, so a principal-agent relationship would form between the agent and the sub-agent.
Okay, that was the next question to be framed, which you answered me. That how there will be the relationship between the principal and sub-agent. First of all, let us just focus that to whom we will call as sub-agent. For that, everyone please see section 91. Section 91. See, section 91. A sub-agent is a person employed by, and acting under the control of original agent in the business of agency. So sub-agent will always be appointed by agent. Actually, there will be no direct link between the principal and sub-agent. Principal will appoint agent to whom we are now calling as original agent, and that original agent will appoint another agent to whom we will call as sub-agent. And let me make you clear under whose control the sub-agent will be. Whether the sub-agent will be under the control of principal, answer is no. The sub-agent will be under the control of original agent. And can you try for it that what is the reason behind it? Why the sub-agent is not under the control of the principal? Please try. It is written there in your provision that sub-agent will be under the control of the original agent. But can you please answer me that what is the rationale behind it?
Ma'am, because the original agent becomes a principal after appointing him, as he is working.
Wants to add on something which you have done in your last year, that is privity of contract. Am I right? Privity of contract. Because the agent, original agent, will appoint sub-agent. He will delegate his act to sub-agent. So actually there is no contract between the principal and sub-agent. So if there is ever any misconduct, any negligence on the part of the sub-agent, to whom the principal can make liable? Not to the sub-agent. to the original agent. Original agent will be liable for the act of the sub-agent as if the act has been performed by original agent himself. So again, there will be a relationship, similar relationship of principal and agent between the original agent and sub-agent, and based upon the doctrine of privity of the contract. So it is what? It is the sub-agent's responsibilities towards original and original responsibilities towards the principal. Is it clear? So somehow, Sumit Kumar, you have rightly pointed out Dunlop case, but in that case, there was no proper formation of doctrine of agency. But anyhow, you are able to connect that whose liability will be to whom. But that was, let me make you clear, that was not a contract of agency. This was just a sale purchase contract between two parties. So let us talk about, first of all, after learning that whether the agent can appoint sub-agent or not, and the second thing, what is the meaning of the sub-agent. Now let us talk about that how there can be delegation of the powers. For that, let me tell you, there can be two kinds of delegations, and one is improper delegation, second is proper delegation. Improper delegation, second is proper delegation. So, what is the purpose behind having this demarcation, that whether there is improper or whether there is a proper delegation? Definitely, it is having its own importance and relevance for determining the liability and excuse me, and the responsibility of a sub-agent. So, for improper delegation, we will read your section 193, and for proper delegation, we will read your section 192. So, first of all, let us talk about improper delegations. And in improper delegations, see your section 193 in your Bear Act. Agent's responsibility for sub-agent appointed without authority. So when there will be improper delegation by a agent, when it is without authority. When it is without authority. Where it is without authority, it is improper delegation. Where it is with authority, it is proper delegation. So read further section 193. When an agent, without having authority to do so, has appointed a person to act as a sub-agent, the agent stands towards such person in relation of a person to an agent and is responsible for his acts both to principal and to third person. Principal is not represented by or responsible for the acts of person so employed, nor is that person responsible to the principal. So now please break the section. Where an agent, so without having authority to do so, means neither the nature of the work demands so, or nor there is any trade custom, nor it is any ministerial act, and no, it is without the consent of the, neither it is with the consent of the principal. So where an agent, without having authority to do so, has appointed a person to act as his sub-agent, then whose liability will be? Read from there onwards the next line. The agent stands towards such person in relationship of a principal to an agent. So similar relationship will be between the agent and sub-agent, and what will be that relationship? Principal and agent, right? So further, and who will be liable? Means original agent will be liable for the acts of both. किसके? खुद के एक्ट के लिए भी और सब एजेंट के एक्ट के लिए भी. For the acts of both to the principal and to the third person. Third, who is the third person here? Third person means the party with whom the contract has been entered on the part of the principal. So the original agent will be responsible for the act of both, for his own act and for the act of sub-agent to the principal and the third person. And further in next phrase, right? The principal has been completely exempted from any kind of the liability in this case, because here the appointment of the sub-agent is without consent of principal and it was improper delegation. So read further where it is making free the principal or declaring principal free from any kind of liability. So principal is not represented by or responsible for the acts of person responsible to the principal. Neither the principal is responsible for the act of sub-agent nor the sub-agent is responsible to the principal. This is what? First, improper delegation. Right? So thereafter, read your section 192. Okay, I want to ask you one question. Please feel free to answer that. Whether all of you are having direct with you? Because there is one section, text by one of the student in my chat box. Whether all of you are having? Yes, no? Or should I every time share the screen for the direct? From next time onwards, I will share the direct with you, right? So it will make things more easy for understanding. No need, then it's fine. Okay, read your section 192. 192 is representation of principal by sub-agent properly appointed. अब properly appointed का मतलब क्या होगा? Either the nature of work is so that sub-agent can be appointed. Either the trade or custom is so that sub-agent is, must to be appointed. Either it is a ministerial action or either it has been consented by the principal itself in the contract expressly or impliedly for the appointment of sub-agent by the original agent. So the next thing is what? Proper delegation. Representation of principal by sub-agent properly appointed. Now again focus on it. It is important to learn. Where a sub-agent is properly appointed, principal is so far as regards third person represented by the sub-agent is bound by and responsible for his act. So as in case any act is done by the agent and we used to make liable the principal for his act, similarly, if somewhere a sub-agent has been properly appointed, the same liability will arise for the principal and principal will be bound. अब इसमें देखो, after comma, read the next phrase. As if he were an agent originally appointed by this principal. Please mark this phrase and write down there. It is a legal fiction. And actually this is not done by the principal. It is done by the sub-agent. But we will be having a legal fiction that it is done by the principal itself. Right? Thereafter, let us talk about the responsibility. That first of all, we talked about the responsibility of the principal in first para. Then in the second para, we are talking about the responsibility of the agent. So read it. Agent's responsibility for sub-agent. Agent is responsible to principal for the acts of sub-agent. So if there is any, wrong negligence done by the sub-agent, then because this is a proper delegation, so the agent will be liable for the act of sub-agent. So, however, there is need to, learn one thing. Agent responsibility for the act of sub-agent will be in both cases, whether it is the proper delegation, whether it is the improper delegation. So, original agent who has appointed the sub-agent in any case will always be liable. Now, let us talk about sub-agent responsibility in your third para. The sub-agent is responsible for his act to the agent, but not to the principal. Please mark this phrase, not to the principal. And what is the logic behind not making the sub-agent liable towards the principal? Because there is no direct contract, or otherwise not, I should not use the term only direct, there is no contract between the principal and the sub-agent. And based upon the doctrine of privity of contract. So principal can never sue the sub-agent directly. If he wants to make liable someone, then he can sue the original. But here is one exception given in your next line, next phrase, except in case of fraud and willful wrong. So if somewhere intentionally there is a fraud on the part of sub-agent, there is willful wrong on the part of sub-agent, because this is a proper delegation, then principal in these two exceptional cases can make sub-agent directly liable for his act, and this is an exception to your privity of contract, and this is an exception because of one reason, that the delegation is the proper delegation. Is that clear? Proper delegation. So this is what this is all about, the sub-agent responsibility. Then the next point which I want to discuss, that is the relationship between the principal and the sub-agent. So for that we will make reference to section 194 to section 195. I know you people would be feeling that we are paying so much time or, spending so much time on the agency. However, in your initial classes, I said that there will be only short note in your LLB exam on the principal. Then what is the reason for giving so much time to the agency? I just want to tell you. First of all, this agency is very important for your practice, and above all, it is very important for your competitive exam. So ये तो reason है. There will be direct subjective question when you will be giving your judiciary exam in case of your civil paper. So in which there will be incorporation of law of contract. Another reason is your next enactment or the statute which we are dealing, that is what Partnership Act. Somewhere somehow it is based upon the relationship of agency, because at times partners will act and will responsible like agents towards each other. So we must have a clear understanding of the concept of agency first of all, then it will lay down a good foundation for your Partnership Act, and you will be able to correlate the different provisions. So don't worry about syllabus, that is my responsibility. Just learn the concept of agency. This is very important. Now let us talk about your section 194 and 195. Read the provision. And one more thing, for your LLB exam as well as for your competitive exam, what is required, how to prepare your chapter agency or concept of agency, you need to learn the interpretation of the provision rather than more focusing on the case laws. So where the case law will be required time to time, I will take reference of that. So read your section 194. Relation between principal and the person duly appointed by agent to act in business of agency. Now again read every single word carefully. Where an agent holding an express or implied authority. एक बार इतना ही पढ़ो. Where an agent holding an express or implied authority. Will you please explain me what is express authority and what is implied authority? We have already done this. What is express authority and what is implied authority? Any one of you? Sugandha, implied husband and wife. Okay, before moving further, can you please just tell me the difference between two concepts? These can be in your interviews. Implied agency, express agency. I'm writing the question in your chat box. And implied authority and express authority. Any कुछ difference है या both of these are same? If I'm using two different terms, right? Whether both of these are same or is there any difference? Please try to differentiate. You should try. Answer me, is there any difference? Do you find any difference?
Ma'am, I think that when it comes to the authority, whether express or implied, it's for one particular task, and when it comes to agency, it is to obtain an object which can include series of tasks in the attainment of that particular object. And the difference between implied and express would be that express would be through words or words written oral, and implied would be through actions and conduct.
Okay, let me explain you. when we are talking about implied agency and express agency, there we are talking about how an agency itself is created. How an agency itself is created means if I appoint you my agent by words, oral or in writing, it is express agency. If I allowed you by my conduct to represent you as my as my agent, then it is implied agency. Let me tell you, in implied agency, generally the powers which has been given or authority which has been given to the agent will always be implied generally, right? But in case of express में मानो जब मैं वर्ड्स में आपको बोल रही थी या राइटिंग में आपको बोल रही थी कि दैट यू आर माय एजेंट और मैं आपका डिफाइन कर रही थी अथॉरिटी, तो उस टाइम पे कुछ जो मैंने राइटिंग में आपको दिया होगा, जो वर्ड में बोला होगा, वो अथॉरिटी होगी एक्सप्रेस अथॉरिटी. अथॉरिटी का मतलब है कि जो आपको काम करने के लिए पावर दी है, अथॉरिटी दी है, वो वर्ड में दी है या फिर कंडक्ट से आप ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हो. तो क्रिएशन, जब आप एजेंसी की बात करते हो, इम्प्लाइड एजेंसी, एक्सप्रेस एजेंसी, वो मतलब होता है कि आपने एजेंसी का रिलेशनशिप क्रिएट कैसे किया है. और अथॉरिटी की बात करते हो मीन्स हाउ अ पावर हैज बीन गिवन टू यू. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मैंने राइटिंग में आपको एक काम दिया था, मतलब पावर दी थी. लेटर ऑन व्हेन यू स्टार्टेड टू वर्क देयर इज नीड टू गिव यू सम अनदर पावर. तो मैंने क्या किया, बाय जो है कंडक्ट आपको अलाउ कर दिया. राइटिंग में कुछ चेंज नहीं किया, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में कुछ ऑल्टर नहीं किया, कुछ एडिशन नहीं किया, वर्ड्स में नहीं बोला. आई गिव यू द पावर बाय कंडक्ट. तो वो है एक्सप्रेस अथॉरिटी. बेसिकली एक सिर्फ बात करता है क्रिएशन की, एक बात करता है कि एजेंट को पावर कैसे असाइन की है आपने, राइट? वेदर इन राइटिंग, whether in oral way or whether through conduct. However, there is not much difference, there is overlapping, but somehow it can be different, that even in agency which is otherwise created by expressly, there can be implied authority later on. Please my work, mark my words, even in an agency which is originally created by express way, later on there can be implied authority given in the same express agency. Is this clear? Is this clear? It always encourages a teacher when students give response.
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
ये छोटी छोटी चीजें इनको लेके चला करो, आगे पढ़ो. Where an agent holding an express or implied authority to name means here, however, irrespective of fact whether the agency was express agency or whether the agency was implied agency, you have been given a power, express or implied authority to name another person to act for the principal in the business of agency. Has named another person. Accordingly, such person is not a sub-agent but an agent of the principal for such part of the business of agency as is entrusted to him. अब इसको explain करने के लिए let me tell you, अभी तक हम किसकी बात कर रहे थे? sub-agent की. Now we are talking about substituted agent. Substituted agent. There is a difference between these two agents. Till now what I told you, original agent, then I talk about sub-agent, now I am talking about substituted agent. Do you think so there is any difference between sub-agent and substituted agent by reading the provision? Do you want to try for it? Okay, I will give you a chance later on. Before that, read illustration A to your section 194. Illustration A to your section 194. A directs B, his solicitor, to sell estate by auction. He mentioned that you should sell the property through auction and to employ an auctioneer for the purpose. Itself, he wrote in his agency contract while appointing solicitor as his agent that you should hire some auctioneer for holding the auction. Thereafter, B names, who was the solicitor, B names C, an auctioneer, to conduct the sale. So he gave the name The principal was asking the name of the auctioneer and solicitor gave the name of the auctioneer to conduct the sale. C is not sub-agent. C अब sub-agent नहीं है. Because original agent has not appointed him by exercising his power to appoint sub-agent. He is just doing an act which has been assigned by the principal, and principal has assigned him what? That you sell my property, but you sell it through the auctioneer. So उसने जब principal himself is asking him to appoint one particular person of one particular service, then later on, if the agent is naming that person, he is only naming. Another point to be focused, even in the provision, even in the illustration, what is required? Naming. तो उसकी power कितनी limited है? Just to suggest, right? Naming the person, then the auctioneer will not be sub-agent. He will be substituted agent. He will be substituted agent. So is this substituted and sub-agent concept clear to you? There can be question in interviews that what is the difference between the sub-agent and substituted agent? Is it clear or need to repeat? Okay. Then, however, when a principal will ask his, agent to name someone for substituted agent, there will be some, responsibility of agent. And what is that responsibility? That he will take care, he will be, reasonable, take care, he will take reasonable care while giving the name of someone. So he will be liable for that. So read the provision section 195. In selecting such agent for his principal, agent is bound to exercise same amount of the discretion as a man of ordinary prudence would exercise in his own case. So what is required at the part of the agent? That agent will act with due diligence and care what is otherwise required from an ordinary prudent person in his own case. What if you are going to find out an auctioneer for yourself? What kind of the due care you will follow? The same level of care will be expected on your part while naming an auctioneer to the agent, right? And if he does this, if he take due care, and he acted with due diligence, and if he does so, he is not responsible to the principal for the acts or the negligence of agent so selected. So let me explain you both of these sections together in regard of a substituted agent. So just listen carefully. If by any contract of agency, principal has asked to the agent to name someone as substituted agent. So section 195 is laying down a duty on the agent that he should take proper care as an ordinary prudent person, as if he would have been acting for his own case or for himself. Means with due care and negligence he should name someone. If he failed to do so, what is the negative interpretation of it, of section 195? If he fails to do so, he did not apply the proper care and negligence, then he will be liable even for the negligence and act of substituted agent, right? But if he is carefully acting, he is acting with due diligence, he will be not liable for any act or negligence done by substituted agent. This is the liability or responsibility in case of agency, sub-agent and substituted agent. So let me just tell you the remedy for a principal where there is a breach of duty. Means जहाँ पे agent has not performed with due diligence and the care. So what will be the remedy for the principal? I am giving you the 3 points based upon the different judgments given in different cases by the courts. First, to ask for the account and also to demand payment of secret and illicit profit earned by him as an agent. Please listen carefully. That if there is, okay, this is not only for case of the substituted or agency related failure of the duty. We have done so many duties. If somewhere there is a failure, then what will be the remedy available to the principal? First, you may write down to ask for an account and also demand payment of secret and illicit profit earned by him as agent. Do you have another class? Do you have another class? Tell me.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so can I take 2 more minutes? Okay, I will because I do have. तो अभी मैं attendance लूंगी. So further we will discuss about the rights of the agent and these remedies available to the agent in your next class. Chat box, and if you, I have messaged you one legal maxim: delegatus non potest delegere. Delegatus non potest delegere. What does it mean? And to what concept it is related? It is related to the sub-agent aspect. So we were left with the last duty, of which I have given you an introduction in your last class, and that duty is duty not to delegate. Duty not to delegate. So the very foremost duty of agent is what? That if he has been hired for doing any act, then this is something, the rule of agency, that he should do it himself. And it is based upon one of the legal maxims, which is written there in your chat box: delegates non potest delegere. It is a well-known maxim of law of agency. And what does it mean? It is based upon one of the basic principles that a principal chooses a particular agent because he has trust and confidence. So I hope you remember that we have already learned this fact that agent and principal relationship is based upon fiduciary relationship. So agent, when you used to pick up someone or appoint someone as your agent, when you do have trust and confidence in his integrity and competence. So if someone has appointed you as an agent due to trust, due to confidence, or due to the belief on your integrity, in your integrity and competence, then according to law, you cannot, further delegate the work which has been delegated to you as by a principal. So this is not only just a legal maxim. This is upheld in one of the case, in number of the cases. So first of all, I will give you the one case law of England. Thereafter, I will give you one Indian case law on the same aspect, which is laying down that this is duty of agent not to delegate his act to someone else. Or let us just simplify it, that agent is here generally required that he should not appoint any sub-agent to act on his behalf. Otherwise, the general principle given in your Indian Contract Act, in your section 40 is the word that any person, any party to contract anyone as his agent. So I'm writing you, giving you the case law. Please write down first of all the English case law. B. Mushche versus Holt. This is an English case upholding the same legal maxim. It is of 1878. 1878. So on same aspect that there is a duty not to delegate, there is another Indian case law. Please write down the citation. New Bharat Corporation versus MP Electricity Board. Electricity Board. New Bharat Corporation versus MP Electricity Board. This is case of 2006. It is upholding the same legal maxim and same legal principle that an agent is duty bound to not to appoint sub-agent, because a principal used to appoint someone because of belief in the competency of the agent. So he should not delegate his power or act to somebody else. Please write down one line for your New Bharat Corporation versus Electricity Board. It has been laid down. It has been laid down by MP High Court. And please write down here, it is a judgment of MP High Court. It was laid down by MP High Court that proof is necessary. Proof is necessary to show. Proof is necessary to show the existence of an agent. Proof is necessary to show the existence of an agent existence of an agent, then of sub-agent, then of sub-agent. Proof is necessary to show the existence of an agent, then of sub-agent. So let us now learn the law relating to the sub-agency in your Indian Contract Act. So again, I want to clarify, the general principle is what? That an agent should not delegate his power to someone else or should not appoint a sub-agent. This is based upon legal maxim and on a number of case laws, but itself your Indian Contract Act provides.
दोस्तों, ब्राज ग्रुप आशा करता है कि आप सभी लोगों को ये लेसन पसंद आया होगा। आप अपना फीडबैक कमेंट बॉक्स में देना न भूलें। थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग।